Hey Mike, what's the difference between clarity, texture, and dehaze?
Wow, what a question. Give me 75 seconds and I'll try to answer it. The first thing to note is that they are all just contrast adjustments, only they apply contrast in different ways. What's contrast? Well, it's simply pushing highlights brighter and shadows darker. Any value brighter than 50% will be made brighter, and any value darker than 50% will be made darker. Clarity, texture, and dehaze all apply contrast just to different parts of the image. Let's start with texture because it's probably the easiest one to understand. All that texture does is apply contrast to areas of high detail on a very fine scale. Basically, anywhere in an image where there are two adjacent pixels with different values, meaning there's some sort of detail, it's going to apply contrast. Clarity, on the other hand, applies contrast to the midtones of your image. So it will only add contrast to the midtones of your image and keep white and black where they are. The other thing that clarity does, and this is why people confuse it with sharpening, is that it applies extra contrast along tonal edges. Here's an example where there are two distinct tones, but when I increase the clarity, it adds a gradient with higher contrast around the edge. This is different than if I just increase contrast, which would keep two distinct tones. Now finally we have dehaze, which is like the cousin of these other two. All that dehaze does is apply contrast in low contrast areas, so the opposite to texture, and it also increases saturation in low contrast areas. This is why it gives that effect of reducing haze, because it adds contrast back to areas where there wasn't contrast before. I hope that all made sense.